Now we're going to have a question and answer session, and look, I would encourage you to keep your questions coming in on the chat function there. And I'm going to hand over to one of our vice presidents, Sofia from Portugal, who is head of the FeedInov group, and she is one of our vice presidents representing research providers. So Anna, over to you now for the Q&A session.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. Yeah, thank you, Jean-Louis, for such a nice presentation. Yeah, we encourage you to keep on coming questions and we will sort them out. So please put them in the chat. And we have a few, which I'm gonna now start with the more generic one, Jean-Louis, which is, well, how do we expect to implement this very interesting and also very broad agenda that we are presenting today?
I have no the answer of this question. I give the K to to DG Research and DG Agri to think about quite original topic about livestock and the interplay between livestock and cropping system. We provide, I think, a lot of ideas. We expect that part of them are good ideas, and so we can use the strategic research agenda in two ways. The first is, yes, and priority is to develop new and to fill new topic for Horizon Europe, but it can be used also in some part at national level to develop research in our own organization without thinking only Europe. But small part of the research, because at the beginning I claim that we put in this document research that need European level. So.
Yeah, but what you are referring now, that we can start by making also you know, small steps and differences within our own countries and address our own you know, country agenda towards this will also help to bring it all together.
Exactly. It is clearly what we are doing in France at INRAE.
Yeah, and also we have a comment here which just came up, but it's linked, so I'm gonna put it in, which is referring to encourage a collaborative approach, and it might be interesting to exercise and to assign these subtopics to the different clusters on the EU partnerships and eventually missions, so that we can also easily and more collaboratively work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Going to the next, and now they're coming. I'm gonna ask Florence's help on sorting the questions out. So we have one here, quite a few actually, concerning the One Health concept, and they are quite related to. You addressed some of these issues throughout the presentation, but one linking between the animal health and human health, and how, you know, the fact that this COVID crisis clearly illustrated this link, and if it's, you know, not directly addressed, but eventually in more general way throughout the document, and also the part linking to antimicrobial resistance. Besides this, what other aspects of One Health could or would be addressed within this big One Health hat?
Yes, so we stress this point on our document, but not too much indeed. We focus on integrative management of animal health because it is our competencies, and for pandemics and antimicrobial resistance, we claim it is more than crucial, clearly, but we know that some partnerships are developing on this topic, and we wrote in our document that we strongly support the partnership on these two topics because they are fully in line in our strategic research agenda, or at the reverse, our strategic research agenda is in line with these two partnerships.
Exactly. So, and still linked to this One Health, considering the animal-human welfare links, we talked about the farmer health, farmer welfare. Is it in general, I mean, is it more focused on the farmer, or are we, going to a broader joint here? And also, maybe Jean-Charles could also give some input on these issues after Jean-Louis, maybe, I don't know.
Yes, no, it's broader than only farmers. I said farmers and it's too fast. I think it's a new domain for research. What are the links between human well-being and animal welfare? And we know that there is it is a crucial issue because we have a strong movement against livestock production, and most of them are not only linked to problem of livestock and environment, they are linked to livestock and welfare. And in the reverse, some people who claim that we need to suppress livestock and to use in vitro meat, I'm not sure it's good for human well-being. Personally, I'm not aware to eat in vitro meat. I prefer meat from cow or for pig. So this link between animal welfare and human well-being is very strong. We need to define more precisely what are the links, what are the interconnection between the two, what are the most important factors and practice which need to use. But for me, human well-being impose a new way of thinking progress in livestock farming, and it's clear that animal welfare is the main issue for the future of livestock. But in the same time, when we are at farm level, we observe, we have a result showing that the farmer's well-being is not so high in some intensive system, for example. It's why some farmers choose to go to extensive system. But it's not always the case. So we need to think about the link between human well-being and animal welfare, both at farm level between the herd and the farmers, or veterinarian and people working around the herd, and from the animal welfare and the society well-being.
Yeah. Jean-Charles, maybe you want to... Yeah.
Well, it's a large concept. If we refer to One Health, it's a concept that is sometimes difficult to operationalize. Depending on the three big pillars, and I'm not sure at the Commission level and even in the member states or different countries, the countries are equipped to address One Health from the human, animal, environment aspects in a really coordinated way. But it's coming. I think probably in most member states in the EU, there are already good connections. We have some activities really that we can claim as being One Health to a certain extent. We have a big project called One Health European Joint Program, where really we look into not only antimicrobial resistance, but what is One Health is also zoonosis. So diseases that are transmitted between animals and humans, with the environment also involved sometimes, and vector-borne disease, etc. So we are looking at it, but let's say that if you look at the research part, you could say that basically cluster 6 on agriculture, food, etc., could look primarily into animals, wildlife, environment. But there is another cluster, cluster 1, that is chef de file, let's say, on the human aspects, on the medical aspects. And there are several partnerships that will probably in one way or the other address elements of One Health. Probably the partnership Animal Health and Welfare will look into the public health impact of animal health and welfare. We speak about One Health, but we can speak about One Welfare. Now it's an increasing kind of wording. And other partnership in cluster 1 was mentioned about One Health AMR, antimicrobial resistance, but also one is in the preparation as well on pandemic preparedness, a partnership on this. But we are not necessarily very well equipped on this. For instance, the European partnerships mentioned in the Horizon Europe will have to be funded from a single cluster. We cannot fund across clusters different partnerships, so that may not really help. Now, to come to the one, let's say, do we look at farmers' health and welfare of animals, or more broadly? It's not an easy issue, because if you look at cluster 6, it's about agriculture, food, bioeconomy, etc. So we can look to some extent into the impact of what we do in agriculture on the food chain and the consumers and the citizens. But let's say, if you ask me whether we are in the best place to address, let's say, the well-being, the impact on well-being of owners of companion animals, I'm not sure this is something we can easily address in the Horizon Europe in our legal framework, let's say, that was established. So it's a kind of issue, certainly important, but we need to see how to address it in the best way. But certainly the relation between welfare of animals, agriculture, and health of the actors in the agriculture and food systems, this is clearly an important domain for cluster 6.
Yeah, thank you. You've actually just answered another question we had here, so related to also this topic. And just to finish the One Health topic, so that we can go to another one, we have a comment here that, you know, it refers to the many positive aspects of One Health, which are often neglected, namely beneficial microbes coming from the animals, have protected humans from ancient times and were developed also in the past, the vaccine issue, and etc. So this is a very hot topic, and also links to the One Welfare concept. And is this link also being addressed by the document, Jean-Peyraud, Jean-Louis? Linking one health with One Welfare? Discussing and talking this?
No, it's not exactly addressed as it is said, but I agree with the question. In the One Health aspect, we have also a link between, I don't stress during the oral presentation, but it is in the document, between the composition of animal-based food and human health, in terms of micronutrient, which can be found in, and microbiome, which can be found in some animal food, especially raw milk, for example, and some problem as allergy in human. So we put some line on this specific topic during the strategic research agenda. So it is another vision on the One Health, if you want.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to move on away from One Health and going into production systems and, like, you know, the system per se. So there's quite a few questions or remarks relating to the different type of livestock farming systems that we have throughout Europe. And well, there's a significant impact on animal density, environmental effects, etc. Would it be good if we further detailed on how the diversity of production systems could be addressed? Because, you know, from Portugal to France to Finland to there are, you know, we can find a common ground, but we can find a lot of differences. So.
Mm-hmm. But we have also large differences in small place. And when we speak about, and if we need to think this question at different level, at more or less local or country level. We need to think about the role of diversity, notably in terms of resilience. At European level, we can also think diversity in terms of what are the role of livestock for different objectives. If we are in an intensive system in north of Europe, you can claim our system are the best because they are the most efficient in terms of food production per kg of inputs. If you are in the south of Europe, you can claim our system are the best because they produce biodiversity. So, so it's two different objectives. The two objectives are useful. And when we think about the CAP, and if we think about payment for ecosystem services, we need to think this diversity at European level and for the national government at their own national level. And one question we have, it's how we can manage this diversity, because we indeed, I'm convinced that we need, in all countries, we need diversity to increase resilience of the system. And especially because we will have some drought event in the future or very hot period. And if we have diverse system, it will be more resilient compared to a blueprint system. The blueprint system can work during 10 years and crash on year number 11. But if you have 50–60% of blueprint system and 40% of different system, you will go every year on the mean.
Yeah. So, but ensuring that information passes to the decision makers is important, because otherwise we may fail to consider one better or worse than the other, and then
when I speak about efficiency in some system and ecosystem services in the other, we can also learn in each system from the benefit of the others. How in intensive system we can produce a little bit more biodiversity, and in very extensive system, can we improve a little bit the efficiency? So,
exactly, and work on both.
Yeah.
So, and how, in what way will this, or can this research agenda be implemented to ensure farmer-led innovation? So can international exchange programs, including farmers and scientists on specific topics, be included? Are we looking only on, big collaborations? I mean, what would be the most efficient way, in your opinion, to do this?
The most efficient way will be the way chosen by the European Commission. I think that we need both. We need both a sort of top-down research, which produce knowledge and provide invention, and after we transform invention in innovation with collaboration with stakeholders on the field. And in the reverse, we can have co-innovation with stakeholders, which is the case in the program PEI Agri, for example. We need both, and it will depend on the subject. In our cross-cutting one for animal biology is clearly purely research at the first stage. But when we think about circularity, I claimed just at the beginning that we need to think and to find observation, real observation with stakeholders to analyze what are the risks, what are the benefits. We need really case study to see what happened on the field, because sometimes we can have good idea in our lab, but it doesn't work on the field. And sometimes farmers and stakeholders have very good idea on their field because they know very well their local condition, and after this, their solution can ask to researcher new question for research. So it is in the upstream and downstream approach, and which will be very difficult, is that when we will think about circularity and reconnecting animal and crop, the question will be totally different according to the region in Europe. And one important aspect for me is, can we, and to which extent, can we reintroduce livestock in region where livestock has disappeared and where now we have big problem with organic matter content of soil, a big problem of pollution of water with pesticide and so on. And because we always discuss about region where we have too much livestock and we have huge problem of eutrophisation, acidification, and so on, but we never speak about the other aspect, which is some region we have not enough livestock to well manage agriculture.
Yeah, and that is an issue for several reasons, and also due to depopulation. And we find that in a lot of reasons, in a lot of areas, which brings us to the next question, which is related. How can we ensure similar opportunities within Europe with all this diversity for the different crop livestock systems? So how to manage this?
I have no definite response on this question. I think it's case by case. We can produce a generic knowledge, but we need local application. And it will be a difficulty for research, because now we need research which produce generic knowledge, generic model, but which are sufficiently available in different local situations. We cannot produce a solution for local situation because we have several hundred local situations, but we can produce generic knowledge, and the stakeholders locally can apply the knowledge for their own purpose and their own situation.
Yeah, and to find, also try to see if within local, try to do a bottom-up approach, local, and then country-wise, and then European-wise to share. And there we can find a lot of programs. It is
partly the role of Agri. We have in a project, we have different local situation, and we can make a new generic question emerging from this different local situation.
Yeah. So there's a generic question here. I'm not sure if it's eventually for you, Jean-Louis, or for Jean-Charles, which is, how is this organized? Is there a minimum of European countries, organizations required within one research program? I think it will depend a lot on the program, but I'll leave it to you.
Should I reply to this one? And maybe
I can't, Jean-Charles.
Reply to some other ones. Thank you, Jean-Louis, to have praised the European Commission approach at European level for having actors being part of projects. So just, for those who know a little bit about the framework program at European level, so we have this concept that we put in place in Horizon 2020, the multi-actor projects. Multi-actor approach project, where we design certain topics that are not really top-down or very basic research, more applied research, where we think that we need the actors, the users, and the stakeholders taking part in the design of the proposal of the projects, accompanying the projects, and with a better chance of using the results at the end of the project. So we have these kind of things. Now, if we look also at what can take place on the spot and validate certain things, there is now a growing interest into the so-called living labs, which are not really in experimental facilities, but more field work that can take place in farms or other type of facilities in the agriculture domain and even beyond agriculture, where we can test for a certain period certain practices. And this can help also if you have a network of so-called living labs, a network throughout the member states and countries in Europe. Then you can test different situations, local situations, and the diversity, and take into account and test options. And like Jean-Louis mentioned, of course, with the EIP Agri, With the operational groups, we have also options for local pilot work, which can include a little bit of research, but essentially is about innovation and putting in practice proposed activities. Now, how does it work under the framework program? Usually the type of topics that we design really typically in our work programs under the clusters, I mentioned cluster 6 before, there are topics where we have to have at least 3 entities from different countries. So it's usually, most often, virtually always, a transnational research project that we fund. And this is the minimum. It can be 3. Sometimes we have projects with big budgets that have 20, 30 partners in the consortium, but the minimum is basically 3. There are some exceptions. When you have a coordination and support action, you could imagine that even one single entity could do the work, and the project could be with a single entity, but this is really the exception more than the rule. Now, basically, it's apart from these coordination actions, most of the projects we fund are really collaborative projects with substantial budget. In FP5, FP6, we still had small projects, let's say with 1-2 million euros. Now we are more towards 5, 6, 7, and sometimes more than this kind of budget for the projects. And that's why you tend to have more than 3 partners in those projects. But legally, the minimum is 3. Member states or associated countries, it can be.
Okay, thank you. So just one last, although there are quite a few, and I'm sorry we can't manage to reply to them all, maybe a bit provocative question. How did we come up with the research agenda? I mean, did we just, find gap assessments or, in the research, or is it, just a list that, has no, further context or relationship?
I'm afraid I not well understand the question, and I think that the question is more for Jean-Charles again, no?
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm not sure. Huh? It's the type of question I ask you from time to time. How do you come with the ideas that you put in your strategic research agenda? So who do you consult, basically? How do you consult and prepare this kind of strategic research and innovation agenda? What I can say is that what you produce and other big other stakeholders, we are using to a certain extent what you are providing to us. We exchange actually with the Animal Task Force and other stakeholders at EU level or sometimes international level and even sometimes with at national level. But we exchange ideas, we discuss about these kind of priorities. But how the SRIA is produced by the Animal Task Force, I cannot say. It's not easy to say. But I guess there is a substantial consultation.
Yeah, and which is quite encouraging for me, comparing to the previous strategic and research innovation agenda. It is that this time, I say that we don't produce topics, we produce ideas for topics. But many of our ideas are shared with other TPs. It is clearly the case for the Sustainable Domain 1, where all the questions are share with Plan for the Future. It is also the case in strategic domain 3 about food, nutrition, security, where more of the topic are shared with plant food for life. And also in sustainability domain 1, we have some topic which are shared with TP organics. So for us, it just means that livestock is also considered as part of a solution for a more sustainable agriculture and more sustainable food system.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
After
a lot
we have our own topics, especially about digital technology. It's really the vision developed only by ATF.
Yeah. A lot of meetings, a lot of consultation, a lot of digesting all this information and putting it to this document. I'm sorry, we still have at least a few questions, but we like to keep it on time. So I'll pass it on to you, Frank, for the wrap up. And thank you for all your questions. Sorry, we couldn't answer them all.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna, and thank you, Jean-Louis, for answering all those questions, and to Jean-Charles as well for stepping in and answering some of them. So look, we've come to the end. Nothing really just for me left to do now, except first of all, just to outline to you our next event, and that's the special session that we are holding with the EAAP, that's the European Association of Animal Production, at their annual meeting in Davos on the 30th of August. And that's going to be a full day symposium on the topic of going beyond feed versus food. And really it's this topic of which Jean-Louis referred to, about animals being recyclers and eating mainly food or feed that humans cannot eat. But obviously in animal production systems, we do use some feeds that could be used for human food. So that's the debate of feed versus food. But so we'll address that topic at the EAAP meeting. Hopefully that will be a meeting in person, but if not, it will be a virtual meeting. And we will follow that up with a topic, with a seminar on the same topic in Brussels on the 19th of November. And again, look, at this stage, we're quite confident that will be a real or a face-to-face event. But I guess one never knows with the times we're living in. So that's our next events, and just for those of you that are in the know of Animal Task Force, that is the topic that we have chosen for this year. Every year we choose a topic, and we have a number of events around that topic. So look, I would like to wrap up now and point you to our website, where you will be able to get the presentations from today. The PowerPoint presentation will be up hopefully by the end of the week, or certainly within a week. You can also get a copy of our of the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda there, and I think a link has been sent out to you directly to that document. So I'd urge you to look at that website. There's a lot of other very interesting papers on it. So finally then, just to thank the people that have been involved in the production of this Strategic Research Innovation Agenda. That's the past presidency led by Jean-Louis, and the current presidency led by myself, and that's Sofia, Anna Granados, Mia Eckert, and Vivi Nelson. And also very much to thank our secretariat, that's Florence Macheret and Susanna de Magdalene, who have been very, very important in terms of bringing this strategic agenda to a conclusion. I'd very much like to thank all of you who attended the webinar today and interacted so well on the questions. We had over 130 people attending the webinar today, so that is really encouraging, and we are delighted with that. So we have now officially launched the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, and I commend it to you to use to make yourself aware of what are the priorities for livestock systems in the area. And we would hope, and I'm sure from the comments of the Commission, that they will find it useful, and that we will see the document somehow reflected in the calls that will come out for Horizon Europe. And we're all very much looking forward to Horizon Europe, and because I think, you know, never has there been a greater need for knowledge and evidence than there is now, and we look forward to being able to provide some of that knowledge and evidence through the Horizon Europe programs. So with that, I will bring the webinar to a close, and thanks very much for all your participation, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.